Okay. Hi, everybody. I think we're live. If you are seeing me live, welcome. Please say hi in the comments. Don't make me feel alone. I'm just going to wait one more minute just to see if other folks are popping in. I'm just going to enjoy my drink. What are y'all drinking tonight? Hello. Hi, Witchy Stitcher. We have a very special guest, and we have a little surprise later with this special guest. So, hello, everybody. Hi. I see you joining in. This is really cool on the one hand. On the other hand, it's a little strange because it feels like I'm talking to myself, which, let's face it, that's what the last 15 months have been in the pandemic, but that's okay. Hello, Pam. Hello, Heather. Hi. Hello, this is so exciting. Okay, fabulous. So I think I'm just going to get started. And if somebody else is tuning in later, they'll get to watch the recording. I think that's how this works. YouTube Live, I've never done it before. We're doing something new and exciting together today. So, okay, I think we're just going to get started. So first of all, everybody, welcome. Welcome to Cross-Stitching and Cross-Dressing Take 2. I did a video called Cross-Dressing and Cross-Stitching last year, I think, and in it I showed everything that I had stitched to that point, which I think was in like December 2020. And let me tell you, I have been a busy cross-stitcher since then. I've stitched a lot of things. I have really expanded my cross-stitching horizons, and I'm excited to share what I've gleaned over the last year and a half or so of stitching. So let me tell you a little bit about one of my favorite topics to bring attention to, which is me. My name is Gila Monster. I am a Toronto-based drag performer. I call myself Toronto's cross-stitching, cross-dressing Jewish American princess. I think that's a little bit of a mouthful, but I think it conveys the point really well. I am, as I said, a Toronto-based performer. I was born in June 2019, right before the world ended. So no correlation, but definitely no causation, but possible correlation. I think that's the scientific terminology. And I love to perform. I haven't been able to do it in person since March 2020. I had 4 events booked that week, and on the third or on the fourth one, I think, they told us that the event was canceled just for a couple of weeks while things settled down. And here we are, a year and a half later, and I really miss performing, but I've been able to transition to performing online and doing a lot of these virtual kind of events. And if you ever want to see any of those events, I have a website called gilamonster.com, and that's where I tell you about all of my performances, both future and past, and you can sign up there. So for example, this month, besides this, we're doing drag yoga with a certified yoga instructor, and that's open to all skill levels. We are going to be doing skincare and sips, in which my drag sister Keonti and I are going to talk about sunscreen, how to use it, when to use it, which ones to use, and then later, the last Sunday of each month, we do a monthly show, my Toronto sisters and I. And the theme this month is going to be Ho Canada, not O Canada, Ho Canada. And we're going to be featuring all Canadian artists. So everyone from Avril Lavigne, Drake. I know we have some Indigenous artists that are going to be represented. So it's going to be a lot of fun, completely free to join. All you need to do is go to gilamonster.com and register at the links there. So enough about that. Let's talk about what this stream will be. This stream is going to be a little bit about drag, but a lot about cross-stitch. It's kind of combining the best of both worlds. In my opinion, it's the thing that I love the most, which is crafting and using my hands for cross-stitching and other arts, and then doing it through this platform that I think people find really approachable and fun. And I mean, it's something crazy to look at. It's like, what are you doing on Saturday afternoon? I'm watching a drag queen cross stitch on YouTube. What are you doing? Thank you so much. Let me just have another sip. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much. Love your eyes. Thank you. Hi, Tony. Oh my goodness. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining. So let's talk about what is cross-stitching, because maybe you are stumbling across this for the first time. You have never heard of cross-stitching before, and you just stumbled across this creature that looks so beautiful, and you're like, what is happening on this day? Well, let me tell you. Cross-stitching, at its very basic, is a type of needlecraft, needle art, needlework that involves using little blocks of stitches to create bigger images. So the easiest way to think of it, or the best analogy, I think, is little pixels on a TV screen that each of them light up in a different color, and then together they create a beautiful picture. And that's what cross-stitching kind of is in essence. Of course, there's no lights involved, there's no electronics, but it's all made with threads and fabric. And I hope that basically explains how it works. Some misconceptions about cross-stitch is it's expensive. Not true. It can be as expensive or as affordable as you want it to be. It really depends on your preference for materials and how thrifty you are, because there are certainly ways to cross-stitch on a budget. Another misconception is that it's really time-consuming, and that's, it's not true. The problem with cross-stitch isn't that it takes so much time, it's that you don't want to do anything else when you're cross-stitching. I think that's the problem. It can be time-consuming, but there are a lot of projects that you can do in an hour, in 2 hours, that are just as beautiful as these huge pieces that take years and years and years. And then another misconception, and I think this one, I'm shattering it a little bit right now, is that it's only for old ladies. And while my makeup might look like an old lady, I am a young gentleman. And cross-stitching is absolutely for everybody. So lots of people cross-stitch from all over the world. I know it's really popular in certain countries like Russia. I think in countries where it's cold a lot of the year, it's more popular because you can't really leave the house. And that's certainly true for me here in Canada. I've seen a lot of gentlemen doing cross-stitch, a lot of younger women, a lot of people, a lot of queer people actually cross-stitch, which I think is really fun. But I think I might be the only cross-dressing cross-stitcher in Toronto, I think. If you know of another one, you can let me know. So good. Okay, fabulous. So how did I get into cross-stitching? I got into cross-stitching when I was a kid, actually. So my mom taught me to cross-stitch, and I believe that she picked it up. So if I didn't clarify, I am Israeli born. I was born in Haifa, Israel, and my mom grew up in Haifa as well. And then she spent some time on a kibbutz, which is like a little community in more of the rural areas. And I think she picked it up there, where there's not a lot of the city, more free time, and that's where she picked it up. And then she taught me when I was a kid. Dropped it off for many, many years, finished my undergrad, graduated into the worst economic recession, I think, of the world's history, / a pandemic. And all of a sudden I had a lot of free time. And I picked up cross-stitching again. And that's what I've been doing kind of for the last year and a half. It's been really a good way to A, pass the time, but B, just to like make friends and connections during this time of isolation. So that's how I got into cross-stitching. I watched a lot of FlossTube, on YouTube, which is just, it's just YouTube videos about cross-stitch. And that's how I learned a lot about what I'm going to talk about today. So, and then recently I've been getting into more of the Facebook groups and trying to connect to people locally here in Toronto and across Canada and Ontario. And I've been really, really enjoying that. And I'm looking forward to connecting with folks once the pandemic is over. So let's get into some of the meat of the video. Shall we do it? I think one of the things I want to share with you is I have been making original cross-stitch designs. I know, crazy. I've only been stitching for about 1.5 years, but I got the bug to design my own patterns really early because there was a little bit of a niche in the market that I was missing, which is my favorite fandom, which is called Percy Jackson and the Olympians. It's a beautiful story. If you watch the movies, not good, but the books are very good. And I decided to make some patterns that go with that series. So I am on Etsy. It's the same username as my YouTube, so GSI Productions, and that's where I sell my own original patterns. I only have a few of them at a time, or for now. I just wanted to show you a couple of them. My mom taught me years ago, but I've not done it in a long time. Well, Pam, I hope that you pick it up after today. I want to show one of the projects that's currently in progress. So Camp Half-Blood is the camp that the story takes place in, and I am stitching up the pattern of the logo. So that's a work in progress. And this pattern is available on my Etsy. And then this one is finished. Ooh, sorry, I just knocked the mic, so I hope that's not too bad. This one is finished. I called it Little Heroes. It's the 6 of the main characters of the Percy Jackson series, and they have the prophecy here and a little Greek key, and I got this framed at Michael's. So this is another one of my original patterns, and I'm hoping to expand my patterns in the future and kind of create a little library of things that maybe no one else is designing because no one else wants them, but that's okay. So cute. Thank you so much, Witchy Stitcher. We have to talk about this because this is a perfect segue. We have the Witchy Stitcher in the chat, everybody. The Witchy Stitcher, if you don't know, is one of the most talented cross-stitch designers out there. They have patterns that are literally breaking the internet. Every floss tuber is talking about them. They have a stitch along, just starting up very soon. I believe it's called Cryptix Sal. Everyone has lost their minds, and I am equally there with them. It looks amazing. There's the Forest Protector, which is one of my favorite patterns of theirs. I adore that. And then they also created the pattern that I'm going to be live demoing later today, and it's called, I just want to make sure I'm calling it the right name. It is called Safe Space. It is a beautiful pattern, and we're going to talk a little bit more about it in a minute. But before I do, I want to tell you something very, very exciting, and this is the first time we're announcing this. So the Witchy Stitcher, no, don't be nervous. The Witchy Stitcher was so incredibly kind and generous, and they designed a Gila monster cross stitch. So I know, hold on to your wigs. This is crazy. Have a little sip. We have an original pattern that is going to be available on my Etsy shop, and it is so beautiful. So I didn't have time to print it out, but I'm going to show it to you on my phone. It's basically a cross-stitch version of my of the Gila Monster logo. So this is what it looks like. I can't believe I'm showing it to you. This is crazy. So you can see it has the Gila Monster makeup, it has the Gila Monster name on the bottom, and it also has the top of the Star of David in rainbow, which is, of course, to signify that my Judaism. So it's my first piece of merch, if you will, Gila Monster cross-stitch merch, which is the most iconic thing I think that's ever happened to any drag queen ever in the history. I'm so excited. Thank you so much to Meg, the Witchy Stitcher. It has been a dream come true, and I'm so excited to be stitching it. I think I'm gonna have it made into a pillow on like a tie-dye rainbow fabric. It is so cute. It is so beautiful, and I feel like it's gonna be an absolute pleasure to stitch, just like everything else the Witchy Stitcher designs. This wig is driving me crazy, everybody, so if you see me like rip it off in a little bit, that's why. And I don't know how people with real long hair do this, but anyway. So the pattern is going to be available on Etsy starting tomorrow. I'm going to leave a link to that in this video later when this uploads. So thank you so much, the Witchy Stitcher. Thank you from the bottom of my gay little heart for creating such a beautiful, beautiful pattern for me and for Gila Monster stands all over the world. And if anybody has any questions about the pattern, I know that Meg is in the comments and she'll be able to answer that. And oh, thank you, everybody. Heather says it's gorgeous. Pam says it's so cool. Thank you so much. Yes, isn't she so talented? Absolutely gorgeous. Thank you so much. So let's get into the meat of the video. We're going to talk a little bit about cross-stitching basics. So I want this to be almost like a resource for somebody who might like drag and they're watching me and they're like, well, that sounds fun and interesting. What do I need to get started? I'm going to talk a little bit about the materials and where I like to buy them. And then we're going to talk about terminology. And at the end, I'm going to demo a little bit of the techniques. And I'm going to do a little bit of a giveaway of what I have stitched up. And yes, it is a pattern by the Witchy Stitcher. and it's absolutely beautiful. So stick around so you can find out about the giveaway. Let's talk about materials, because that's what everybody loves. I feel like there's a separate hobby of cross-stitching and collecting cross-stitch materials, and those are not necessarily the same thing. Cross-stitchers like me know that the best thing in the world is getting your delivery from 123 Stitch or your local LNS, and it's the best thing in the world, best feeling. So what do you actually need to cross-stitch? Well, there's a couple of basics, and I'm going to show it to you. So the first thing is fabric, and the options are literally endless. And of course, you can make your own. The two, I'm going to say, basic types of fabrics are linen and Aida fabric. Now, what is the difference? Linen, in general, it's made of the material linen. It's not just called linen. It's a type of material. It's a woven material that is not woven completely evenly, so that when you're stitching it, you have to be quite conscious of where your needle is punching through. I'm not an expert on linen by any means. I tried linen once. It nearly made me quit stitching, and I vowed never again. No, I'm kidding. The one I prefer, it's called Aida fabric. And the difference between Aida and linen is Aida is made usually of cotton, or a combination cotton and synthetic fiber. And it is an even weave fabric. So you have a completely evenly woven fabric, so your needles know exactly where to go. Now, of course, that means you need needles. Your needle, oh, and just to show you, fabric, when you buy it, like in generic stores, a lot of the time it comes like this, like in little rolls. This is an Aida fabric from a brand called Loops and Threads, which I believe is the Michaels in-house brand. I could be wrong. And they come in big, big rolls like this. You just unroll as much as you need and you cut it out. Or when you buy it, from a specialty store, they will cut it down from a bigger bolt, and they can serge it, which means they will kind of like tie off the edges, if that makes any sense, so that the edges of your fabric don't fray as much. Next thing that you need on top of your fabric is, of course, threads. Now, threads are somewhere where you can really go haywire, or you can go really thrifty. The threads that I like to use, they are from a brand called DMC. And you can literally buy them anywhere, which is why I like them. So this is what they look like when you buy them in the store. These are called skeins, and they're about 8 yards or about 8 meters. And they come wrapped like this. They come in a million different colors, and the way you can tell them apart is they have numbers on them. And most time your fabric or your pattern will tell you which number of thread to use. And DMC is by far, I think, the most popular one with designers. So you will see them call for these a lot. These are very inexpensive. They're only about 79 cents, I believe, at Michael's, even less at Walmart. Or you can, of course, buy them online. And I believe that they're cheaper that way. Now, if you want to go really haywire, and I know that people in the comments will know this is called a cone of doom. In 310. So DMC does sell this in giant versions, which is this. This is 450 yards. And if you do the math, it's about half the price of buying the equivalent of this. This is like 50 of these guys. So really good value if you're somebody who stitches a lot. Yes, I see people in the comments recognizing this. The 310 is the most popular color. I would say you use it in pretty much every pattern, which is why it's so good to have a giant one of this. Something to note about DMC in particular is that it looks like just one thread in here, but if I pull it out a little bit and pull it closer to the camera, you can see it's actually several different strands. So DMC has 6 strands. Different brands have different amounts of strands. And you stitch with however many strands you want. So most patterns will tell you how many to use. Otherwise, there's almost like a good guideline of using like 2 strands for most counts. And I'll explain a little bit more about what that means later. But it really depends on how dense you want your stitching to be. So you have your thread, you have your fabric. What else do you need? Well, besides that, you are also going to need scissors. And I know you think you can just use your kitchen scissors or your paper scissors, but no, you need embroidery scissors. I'm a big believer in these. This is from the same brand, DMC. The reason I like embroidery scissors over other types of scissors is A, they're really, really sharp. and B, they're really, really small. So you can get really close to your fabric and just snip off the end of your thread. Really useful to have these around. Back to the needles. You're going to need a needle based on how big your fabric is. So what I mean by that is the Aida and the linen come in different counts or sizes. Think of it like small, medium, large. Your Aida is typically 14, 16, 18, 20 size. And then for linen, it's basically twice that amount. So the equivalent of a 24 of rather a 14 count Aida is a 28 count linen. So just whatever your Aida count is, double it, and that's your linen. So your needle is really going to be determined by which fabric size you're going to be using. So I use this little contraption from DMC as well that holds a bunch of different needle sizes. So I use size 24, which goes with 14 count, size 26, which goes with 16 count, and size 28, which goes with 18 count. And the smaller they are, the bigger they are. I know it doesn't make any sense, but it is what it is. And something to keep your needles on, it's called a needle minder. This one, it has a little, oh my goodness, we have so many comments going on. You really can never have too much thread. So true. The pointy little scissors are also handy if somebody creeps on you while you're stitching in public. I love it. Yes, absolutely. No one creeps up on me when I'm stitching. This is called a needle minder. Lots of people make these. You can often find these on Etsy. They're basically magnets on the back that you stick onto your fabric, and then you just stick your needle to it so that you don't have to poke your needle through to hang out, when you're not stitching. Not a necessity, but definitely something that makes your life a lot easier if you're somebody that loses your needles a lot. Now, what else are you going to need? Everything that I'm showing now is a little bit optional because you don't really need anything besides the needle, the scissors, the fabric, and the thread to stitch. This is called a bobbin. So it's also from DMC, but you can buy these generic brand as well. They're little plastic shapes that you wind your thread around. And I just put a little label maker on, sticker on here with the number of DMC, so I know which one this is. And that's how I store them. I store them in this big box. This is one of two that I currently have. And this you can buy at Michael's as well. And this holds a ton of thread, and it keeps it organized, so you can just put whatever is left over after your project onto these bobbins and just store it in here. And what else do you need? You're also going to need some, or this is optional, but you probably will want it. You're going to need a hoop, a little wooden hoop, or they sell them in plastic as well. And you're essentially creating tension in the fabric with this. You just wind it or twist it so that it becomes a little bit tighter, a little bit looser, and that's how you get tension so that the stitching comes out more even. You can also alternatively use a Q-snap. This is an off-brand one. Basically, the idea is a big frame, and then you take the little pieces that come with it, and you snap them on, and you snap it on the bottom, and that is going to create your tension. You can just adjust it by pulling these little pieces to the side or up and down. So these are to create tension in your fabric. And then what are you going to put all of this in? You're going to put it in a project bag. A project bag is, again, apologies, I'm going to have to move the microphone. Sorry for the earthquake. A project bag is basically a bag that you store all your project in. So your fabric, your threads, your hoop, your pattern, everything that you need to create your project goes into a project bag. This one I had custom made using a fabric. Oh my God, are you ready? If you didn't realize I'm gay up to now, this is my project bag. Yep, and I'm not embarrassed by this. It is a little risque, but I'm a drag queen. And this is a Henry, oh goodness, I don't remember. It's like gay pinup fabric. It's a series that was done in the 2000s, I think, by somebody, I don't know, a fabric maker. And I found these on Etsy. There's a whole series of them. And then I had a local seamstress in Toronto create these bags for me. They have vinyl front. They have a zipper. They have a little donut pull, which I think is really cute. And these store my projects when I'm traveling. So I just put everything in here. I take this with me on the subway, and everyone looks at me, and I just hiss at them. Or we just use the scissors, right? No, I'm not advocating to stab people with your embroidery scissors. Cute, cute, cute. So those are the basic things I think that you need to start cross-stitching. Oh, did I mention patterns? Because you probably need a pattern as well. A pattern is, as it implies, it tells you what to stitch. And patterns, you can really buy them in so many places where I'm going to talk about that in a second. But the pattern is basically a grid that tells you which colors to use where. And as you stitch, you essentially copy the pattern onto your own fabric. So this is an example of what a pattern comes in. They usually come in these like little plastic baggies. They usually have a picture of the pattern on the front with some information about it. On the back, I can't show you this one because it actually has the pattern on the back, but it has the list of threads, colors that you need. It tells you the fabric that they suggest and all the information that you need to stitch this up. So this, for example, this is called Something Wicked. It's from a brand called La Di Da. I haven't stitched this yet, but I'm excited to. And these patterns, I like to make a working copy. So you just photocopy the one that comes in here. So then you still have a pristine copy if you wanted to restitch this. And the pattern is really, I think, the last thing you need in order to start stitching. Now, if you're watching this and you're like, well, that all sounds wonderful, but where do I get all these things? Well, I'm going to tell you. Depending on where you are in the world, you might have different options available to you. The first option, the best one, is your LNS. And what does that stand for? It stands for Local Needlework Store. Local needlework stores are the stores, the bread and butter of our stitching communities. They sell the materials, they hold the events, they have all the expertise, having a stroke, about stitching, and that's where a lot of us, go when we have questions about stitching. So do a little Google of, Toronto needlework store or Vancouver needlework store, wherever you are in the world, and see if you can find one to support. If you are in Toronto, I recommend Gila's Charted Petite Point. It's in Mississauga, and it is just heaven on earth if you are a stitcher in Toronto. It's so beautiful, and the ladies there are so helpful, and they have original designs, which I really adore. There's also a store in Vaughan called Enchanted Needle. Really good if you need a lot of fabric. They have a ton of fabric on hand. If you're somewhere a little bit more rural where you can't access an LNS so easily, you can definitely order online. The store that I like to order from is called 123stitch.com. They're based out of Utah, I believe, in the States. So they do take a while to ship to Canada, but the shipping is really, really affordable. It's $5 flat rate shipping to Canada. And they have one of the most impressive inventories of materials that I've seen. So patterns, fabrics, threads. And they're really good as well at suggesting alternative materials. So if you, for example, want to stitch something that is charted in a thread company that you don't want to use, you want to use DMC, they are really good at providing alternatives. Same thing with fabric recommendations. They're really fabulous. Just nothing but good things to say about 123 Stitch. And then if you want patterns and you want to support local artists, I highly recommend that you head to Etsy. Etsy is one of those places where it's really easy to list your patterns, and that's why a lot of people do it there. You can just buy a pattern for $10, whatever it is, and you download it on the spot. It's really, really easy. It's a great way to support your local artists. I believe that the Witchy Stitcher sells on Etsy as well. Just going through the compliments. If you start carrying that on the subway, I would instantly become best friends. Absolutely. We have none left in Vancouver. It makes me very sad. There are some in those burrs, but I don't have a car. Yeah, that's the thing about these local needlework stores, is that if they don't get enough support, they just go out of business. So I think it's really important, as if you're able to, and by no means am I assuming people's financial situations, if you're able to support your local needlework stores and artists on Etsy. As I said, I also have an Etsy shop. It's GSI Productions, where I sell my original patterns. And I think that that's one of the easiest ways to get patterns. And there's really a pattern for everything out there. If you have thought it up, it exists. And if it doesn't, you tell the witchy stitcher and she's going to make it for you. No, I'm just joking. Not sponsored by Coca-Cola, but if they wanted to, they know where to find me. So that's where I would say I would get most of my supplies. If you really are in a pinch and you don't know where to even start, try Michaels. Michaels a lot of the time has the generic brands. They have the generic Aida fabrics. They have the generic DMC threads, and you can just download a pattern off of Etsy and you can really get started in a couple of hours. So easy. If you're just looking to start out, find a pattern that has 14 count Aida, which is big Aida. It's easy to see. Get some needles, get the threads that are called for, and just go for it. It literally is that easy. Now, some of the words that you've been hearing throughout this, and if you're going to be watching any more videos about cross stitch, you're going to hear a lot of terms over and over again, and you might not be familiar with them. So I just wanted to clarify a couple of those. The first one, of course, was LNS. LNS is, again, local needlework store, of which we are fans and we are going to support. Yes, God. See, I had to get that in there somewhere. I'm not a drag queen if I don't do 1 tongue pop an hour. Now, the next word was count. So I explained that it's sizes of the fabric. Whip. Whip is another term that this community loves to use. At first, I was very confused. I was like, whip, like their ride? Like, why are they talking about their cars? No. Turns out whip is an acronym for work in progress. So when somebody's telling you, oh, my whip is taking forever, their work in progress is taking forever. And that really applies, I think, to any project that you're working on that is not fully finished, which is the next term, which is FFO, fully finished object, or other people like to say finally finished object. So that is something that you have finished stitching and then you have turned it into the final item, which is, a pillow or a framed piece, whatever it is. And the last one I wanted to go over, because I know this one comes up a lot, and first I was very confused. You might hear stitchers say something like 1/1 or 2/2. And what they mean by that is how many strands of floss or thread you use over how many holes in the fabric. Now, this almost exclusively applies to linen fabrics, because Aida, again, usually the general rule is that you stitch, every hole. You don't skip any holes because Aida is big enough to do that. So it just refers to how many strands you're using and then how many holes are you skipping or stitching into. I hope that makes sense. Let me just see if there's any questions or comments. Perfect. Okay, let's keep going then. So I wanted to show you a couple of the techniques that that you might need to start cross-stitching, because we've gone over what you need and what everything means. I'm going to try my best to do it live. I've never tried stitching with a wig on, so we'll see how that goes. Look at me. I feel like I'm a football coach because I brought a whiteboard and I'm going to show you something. Okay, are you ready? I feel so silly. So a basic cross-stitch, that's what I want to show you. So I'm going to draw on the board and then I'll show you. Look at how prepared I am. So imagine that this is your fabric. This is, 4 holes in a fabric. This is an even weave, so something like an Aida. And I'll show you how we would stitch this. So wherever you start, doesn't really matter, as long as it's consistent. So every stitch that you do should be the same, just to keep it consistent. So I'm going to start at the bottom, right? So we're going to come up with the needle from behind. We're going to poke it through. We're going to carry this thread across there. Now our thread is across the front and our needle's in the back again. And this time I'm going to come up from here and I'm going to come down there. And that is your basic cross stitch, okay? Very rudimentary. Nope, having a stroke again. Give me a doctor. That was a very bad explanation, but that is what a basic cross stitch is. And you just repeat that hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times to create an image. So let's do it. So I'm going to be stitching the item that I'm going to be giving away. So let me just show you, because half of it is already done. So this is from using a pattern from the Witchy Stitcher, of course. Thank you so much, Meg. So Meg put this together for Pride season. It's a free pattern available on their website, which is witchystitchers.com. I don't know. Just Google Witchy Stitcher and it'll come up. And it's in the freebies section. It's called Safe Space. The pattern has more elements than what I've stitched. I've just stitched a little element of it because I wanted to create something small. But basically, it is a little hand towel with the Pride Progress flag stitched on it. So let me bring it closer so you can see. Look how cute that is. This is a little baby blue hand towel. Really, really cute. Maybe this will be my thumbnail. What do we think? And this is going to be really cute in your house. I hope that you like it because somebody is going to be winning this. And all you're going to need to do to win this is go over to my Instagram. I'm going to have a post up later tonight. And it is going to say, if you're Canadian and you're watching this and you want to win this, you're just going to leave a comment and somebody will be entered to win. So we're going to be stitching the other side of this. So this side is fully finished. The other side, it is almost fully finished. We're just missing the red on the top. And we're going to be stitching that. So what are we going to do? I'm not going to use a hoop just because we are on camera and I don't really feel like doing that. I'm going to take my red thread. This is the shade 666, which I think is so fitting for what we're doing here today. The devil on my channel, would you believe? So this is a little piece of thread. I hope you can see it. And currently it has 6, or it rather has 4, because I already used some of it. It has 4 strands. So I'm going to separate them 2 into 2. And I'm just going to pull. And they come apart. And now I have a length of 2 strands of DMC thread. Now, before I can actually put that into the fabric, what we're going to need to do is put a little bit of a knot into this. So I'll do that again. I do a little loop, kind of like that. And then I pull the thread through, and that's my little knot. And then I'm just going to snip the extra length of thread. Okay, so now we have a knot on one side, and we have this other side ready to go. So we're going to need to thread our needle. Threading the needle is something that really is going to come natural to you after a little bit, but the first time can be a little intimidating. This is going to be gross, but what I like to do is to basically wet the end of the thread with a little bit of spit, because that makes it go smoother. But because this is going to somebody else, I'm going to try not to do that. See, now that I'm doing this on camera, it's nearly impossible to do it. But normally I do this very quickly. We're just going to pull that through. Fabulous. Okay. So we have our needle threaded. And I'm going to use the pattern from the Witchy Stitcher. And again, this is a free download. I hope you will go and download it and stitch it up. It has a lot of really cool elements. It has bats in it. It has the word safe space. And of course, it has this rainbow pride flag, or the progress flag, rather. Now, I know we have the Witchy Stitcher in the chat, so I was curious if they would be willing to share with us the inspiration behind this pattern. So while we wait for that, I'm just going to start stitching. So basically, I'm going to take my fabric. I'm going to stick my needle through the first corner. Okay. You can also use a threading tool for those with bad vision. Absolutely. Yes, there are threaders out there. Okay. So we've come up through one of the corners. Now we're going to go down across. So currently we are halfway to one full stitch. There we go. People with sewing machines use these a lot too. Absolutely. Okay. And then I'm just going to come up on the top, stitch it, and down over. And that is going to be my first full cross stitch in red. So I just want to show you what that looks like. So you can see it takes really not a lot of time to create one of these stitches. And then together, they're going to come up with a picture. So I'm going to do that while we wait for Meg to tell us a little bit more about the inspiration behind this. I was really excited when I saw this pattern because there's a little bit of a shortage of LGBT themed patterns out there. If you go up on 123 Stitch, for example, there are, I think if you look up rainbow, there are literally none. Like there is nothing to do with LGBT topics. On Etsy, there are definitely more. But I just thought it was so cool that the Witchy Stitcher, who does so many patterns and is so popular and has such a big audience, was kind enough to design something for this community and to make it free so that I could share it with all of you today, because this is just one of my favorite things that I've stitched in a long time. Okay. And then I was thinking, as I stitch this, because I don't want this to just be, another 20 minutes of me sitting here just silently stitching, I was going to go through some of the questions that y'all have submitted before the show. Oh, we actually just got the answer. So the Witchy Stitcher says, basically, I just wanted to make a safe space stitch for my door, but make it spooky. I'm 100% committed to equality and speaking out against discrimination. I want everyone to know they are always safe with me. There you go. I mean, if I could... I'm getting a little emotional. It's a good thing I wore waterproof mascara. I think it's so fabulous. Thank you so, so much for doing that. I think the entire community is better for people like you existing. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And really, truly, everybody, go and check them out. They have some of the best stitch-alongs that I've ever seen, some of the best patterns. Lecce, as I said, the Force Protector is one of my favorite patterns. It's on my list to stitch. There are so many good ones. And there's a Sal coming up, Stitch Along as well. So I hope you will check them out. June Bug and Darling is a queer pattern creator. Look up her IG and website. Okay, I will. Thank you for that. I didn't know that, Tracy. Thank you, thank you. That's great information. She also sells kits. Fabulous. Thank you. Okay, well, let me go through some of the questions that y'all have submitted, and hopefully I can do that while I stitch. So we had a question. What is your least and most favorite thing about drag? My favorite thing about drag is that it brings together so many different art forms. So what I'm doing here, this is not what you think of when you think of a drag queen, right? You think top 40 in a dark club, everyone's a little bit drunk. And that's certainly one aspect of drag, and I've definitely done my share of that. But I think drag is a vehicle to so many other types of art. And that's what I love so much about it. It highlights a lot of different art forms, whether that's dance or burlesque or music and song, so many different art forms. And I really love it for that. My least favorite thing about drag, can I say wigs? Seriously, I don't know how people with long hair do it. It drives me absolutely nuts. I want to be one of those drag queens that eventually stops wearing wigs, I think. So that was one question that was submitted. And then we had, who is your favorite local drag queen? Well, how local do we want? Like local my house, local as in Toronto, local as in Canada. If we're going with Toronto, I have a troupe of performers that I perform with monthly. We call ourselves the girl group in quotation marks because I've just lost my threading here. It's because I'm nervous, okay? Am I allowed to be nervous? But we have this rotating show that we do every month. As I was saying before, this month it's a Canadian artist theme, so we're calling it Ho Canada. And some of my favorite performers perform in that. So we have Opal Debris, who is one of the funniest people that I know. She once ate a cucumber instead of doing a number, which doesn't sound funny when I say it out loud, but at the time it was hysterical. There we go. Got my needle back. Opal Debris is so good. There is a performer called Eve Angelical here in Toronto. They are a trans performer, and they do the most creative things. We did a Britney Spears themed show, and they performed. They were like projecting the Dance Revolution. Is that what it's called? Do y'all remember that? It was a video game that told you like how to do popular dances. and they did that live, and because they didn't know any Britney Spears songs, which I thought was hilarious. Another one that I adore is Beyonce. She calls herself my drag daughter. I call her my drag abortion. She is one of the most talented people in the community, and I absolutely adore her. Chianti, my other sister, her and I are doing a show later in the month where we are just going to drink wine and talk about skincare. I mean, what's not to love? She's really, really fabulous and very fierce. She just bought, this is crazy, she just bought a pair of boots from Kesha. Like, not a Kesha brand of boots, like literally from the person Kesha. I thought that was pretty sick. And who else is really, really good? We have Je ne sais pas, who, as you might imagine, has a French influence, really fantastic. We have, see, if I forget them now, they're never going to let me live it down. Calypso Cosmic, who is not only a fierce performer, but a really, really good seamstress and wig maker. Check her out if you need any of those things in Toronto. And yeah, I mean, there's so many good Canadian performers, and I highly encourage you to check out my Instagram where I tag most of these people. I'm one of those people that like collects talented friends. Like, I want to be better by associating myself with really fierce people. And that's why there's so many good ones in our show. We had another question. How do you clean off glitter without being randomly sparkly for days? My counter question to that is, why do you not want to be sparkly for days? Be sparkly for days, you know? Let the world enjoy your sparkle. No, but seriously, glitter is the herpes of the craft world. Once you put it on, it never goes away. And the thing that I use to remove my makeup, it's called a makeup oil, like cleansing oil. I use a brand called Uriage. It's a French brand, really inexpensive actually. And it captures everything in one go usually. So I just wipe that all over my face and it gets rid of everything, including the glitter. If you are still having issues with glitter, like just contaminating everything forever, you might want to use duct tape. Or no, not duct tape. It's painter's tape. Painter's tape, because it's sticky enough to get the glitter off your face, but it's not sticky enough to like rip your skin the way duct tape is. So that's what I would recommend. The other thing is, use a good glitter glue. I use the NYX glitter glue, and it keeps my glitter on pretty much perfectly until I'm ready to remove it. So that would be my advice: is a good cleansing oil and a good glitter primer. Another question, who introduced you to cross stitching? So I answered that already. That was my mom, who I adore, and she doesn't cross stitch very much anymore. I think life just got busy, but she made really beautiful pieces. Now though, she's been doing other types of embroidery, which I've enjoyed thoroughly. And yeah, that's who introduced me. So I'm hoping that one day I'll get to introduce it to somebody else. Maybe this video is me like passing the torch to somebody. Just wanted to support a Canadian queen. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed the Boulet Brothers Dragula TV show. I was wondering how common it is for a drag artist to go monster. Do you generally stick to one style, or glam like glam only does glam? Good question. So you're asking how is it common for an artist to go monster? Well, I am Gila monster. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, there is a tendency for drag performers to like dig ourselves into a hole a little bit with the type of drag that we do. But I think that the beautiful thing about drag is it's not that serious, right? Like, it's just wigs and makeup. That's all it is. So if you don't like what you're doing, you say, hey, this is the new thing I'm doing, and most people will support it. So there's definitely a spike in what I think you're calling monster, glam around Halloween, where people do really fun things that are out of the ordinary. In Toronto, we have a competition called Queen of Halloween. It's hosted every year at Woody's, which is one of our bars, and that is one of the most creative things, most creative times of the year. So I don't think it's as common as perhaps it ought to be, but there are certainly people who fluctuate between glam and creepy. We had a question, what's your favorite thing that you've stitched so far, and what's a pattern you're dying to stitch? So I actually brought it up. Let me just see if there's any questions streaming in. She took the idea and ate a banana and stage and won again. This is my favorite thing I've ever stitched. Are you ready? It's big. Oof. And everyone who sees this, the first thing they say usually is, did you stitch yourself? Because out of drag, that is what I look like. It is not me. This is basically a portrait of Timothée Chalamet in Call Me By Your Name, which, if you don't know, it's a movie about two queer Jews in Italy in the 80s finding love. And it was one of the first times that I, as an LGBT Jew, sorry about that, I just gave you a heart attack, saw myself represented on the big screen. So I felt really passionate about it. This pattern came from Etsy. If you just look up Call Me By Your Name cross stitch, it's there. It's huge. It's full coverage. It's got a lot of what we call confetti, which in hindsight is one of the words that I should have used in my terminology section. But confetti basically means a lot of different colors of stitches without a lot of solid stitching. It definitely makes it a challenge. It is not a beginner-friendly pattern whatsoever. But I really enjoyed it. It was so much fun to stitch. And when I look at it, it just makes me happy because I remember that story and how much it meant to see that for the first time. And there's a really beautiful book as well. If you watched the movie and you want to read the book, it's definitely still worth it. Even though you know what happens, it's beautifully written. And then a pattern that I'm dying to stitch, can I just say, he's going to be Paul in Dune. Oh, in Dune, yes. That's like the first major movie after the pandemic. And I have never been more excited for a movie in my life. It is so exciting. He looks so cute in it. There's actually an action figure of Timothy in Dune that I kind of want. But maybe if enough of you buy my patterns, I can afford to buy a Timothy figurine. No, I'm just kidding. It's really, really fun, and I'm happy that he's getting the recognition he deserves. I think he's going to be like the next Leonardo DiCaprio. He is one of the most talented young performers, other than me, out there. And what makes me a little bit sad is that I don't think that there's going to be a sequel to Call Me By Your Name, because the other actor in the movie has been canceled for a variety of reasons that we shall not be diving into. But yeah, the pattern that I still want to stitch. So if y'all know Long Dog Samplers make these really insanely insanely detailed patterns. And they have one called Templar's Prophecy. So I have it fully kitted, which means I've bought all the things for it. I have the pattern, I have the threads, I have the fabric. I just haven't started it because it's like 16 pages of solid stitching, and it's a little intimidating. But I think once it's done, it's going to be like one of those things that people walk into your home and they're like, oh, okay, you are a professional, you know what you're doing. But not yet, but that's definitely one that I'm looking forward to doing. And then I think we had a couple more questions. Who's your favorite cross-stitch designer aside from the Witchy Stitcher? I know she's everybody's favorite, including mine. Well, since I'm not allowed to say Witchy Stitcher, even though that would be a top contender. Some of my favorites are Teresa Kogut. She makes some of the cutest Halloween-inspired cross stitches. She doesn't make a lot of them, so I'm always like haunting her Facebook page to see when she's going to release new patterns. And then I'm trying to think who else makes really beautiful patterns that I love. Like, there's so many that I'm now blanking. There's one that everyone is stitching up. Long Dog is so gorgeous. Been working on mine for almost 2 years. So worth it. Absolutely. I think so too. It's going to be gorgeous when it's done. It's just like amping myself up to do it. The one I'm thinking of, it's like these cottages, and they're different for each month, and everyone's lost their damn minds over them. They're very cute. I don't remember what they're called. So if you saw my stitching wish list, it is like 300 items long, because every item, every stitch that I see, I'm like, yep, I want to do that one too. But that is another one that I love. I would love to hear in the comments if any of you have suggestions for really good stitching or patterns that you think that I would enjoy. So I like anything. Oh, do you know what? I don't even have it to show it to you because I just dropped it off for framing. But there's a pattern called Judaic 10 Commandments from Cooler Design Studio. I just finished it. It took me 3 months. It is almost full coverage. It has a lot of metallic, which is the death of me. And it's one of the few patterns out there that has a Jewish motif to it, which, as I think I've mentioned several times, I am Israeli and Jewish, and it's really important, I think, to see yourself represented in the arts. So I've been, I adored that. That was my favorite thing, I think, that I've stitched recently. It was a nightmare to stitch, might I add, but the result is so beautiful. An indigenous medicine wheel. Ooh, I would love that, actually. Is that cultural appropriation if I stitch that? I hope not. Like, I hope it's cultural respect, right? There's a pattern that I just bought from Gila's in Mississauga in Ontario. It's one of their original designs. It's called Aurora Borealis, and it has these 3 children in traditional Inuit jackets. I was looking for the word. And I think that that is going to be really beautiful to stitch up. And that I feel comfortable with, because I know that it is, it's paying homage rather than trying to like appropriate, which I think is something that we're all really aware of at the moment. If you are Canadian, you know what I'm talking about. But yeah, I'm really excited for that one as well. And then I'm hoping one of these days to actually start a SAL. Maybe the cryptids one will be the one that I start. I'm like hesitant to do it because I'm afraid of falling behind, but I think it would be a lot of fun. So I'm coming up to the end of my stitching. I have just one more stitch that I'm putting in, and okay, so there we go. We have the red now all stitched up. It is completely finished. Now here's the back. Okay, so you can see I went side to side, and what I'm going to do now is finish the thread. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just stick the needle, still threaded, through the underside of one of my stitched rows on the back, and that almost anchors it in the spot, so it's not going to go anywhere. Snip off the excess, and we are completely done. So 2 identical pride flags from the Witchy Stitcher Safe Space pattern, which is a freebie from their website. So please go check it out. And I will be giving away this towel when it is, and I just want to show you when it's folded. Woo. There we go. So it's going to look like this, and then it is stitched on the other side as well. So you could flip it over, and it's completely stitched. So I'll be giving that away to anybody who wants it. It's going to be a random comment generator. So all you need to do is go to my Instagram, which is GSI Productions. It's the same one as my YouTube. And you're just going to leave a comment on the post that's going up later tonight. And one of my Canadian subscribers will win this, and will receive it, and we'll have a little piece of Gila monster in their home. Thank you so much to the Witchy Stitcher for providing this pattern and for creating something so beautiful. It is just so touching to know that this community is so welcoming and loving. And thank you for putting this together. It has been a dream come true. So head over to my Instagram if you want to win that. That's going up later tonight, so be there or be square. I just want to give you a couple more resources before I leave. So if you want to find out more about stitching, I highly recommend you check out 123stitch.com. They have really good resources. Fat Quarter Shop is on YouTube. They have a floss tube that is really, really useful, and they have a lot of information. Or just call up your LNS, your local needlework store, and go visit them because they need you after this pandemic. Thank you, everybody, for joining me for this live stream. I hope you enjoyed it. My name is Gila Monster. I am Toronto's cross-dressing, cross-stitching Jewish American princess. This has been so much fun. If you want to find out more about my events or anything that I'm doing, you can visit gilamonster.com or follow me on Instagram or Facebook, Gila Monster Queen or GSI Productions. Thank you, thank you, thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody in the comments for joining me along. Thank you, Pam. Thank you, Parker. Thank you, Heather. Thank you, everybody who joined. And I will see you either in my next video, if I do another one of these, or I will see you at another one of my events. Thank you, everybody. Stay safe and support your local artists. Let's leave on that message. Bye, everybody. Thank you.